Jon is what I would describe is there's human beings that have different temperament and different minds and different mentality and a ruthless competitive drive that's almost terrifying to the ordinary person. That's Jon Jones. Jon Jones is a bad guy who's trying to be a good guy.
The fight will never happen. Gun to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. Tom has never been pushed into those championship rounds. That first time you feel that, I gotta get up off that stool after the third round. You needed to fight Tom now when he doesn't have that experience, especially as Jon Jones.
Jon Jones finally went battle against Tom Aspinall. Not in the cage yet, not under the spotlight of a pay-per-view headliner, but through words and plans that could very well lead to action. Jones has recently floated the idea of fighting Aspinall at the White House, which was unexpected at the start of the year. U.S. President Donald Trump has officially declared plans to have a UFC event in the White House's gardens, a move that garnered instant attention and was supported by UFC President Dana White. And just like that, one of the most bizarre ideas in combat sports became a possible reality, with every UFC superstar scrambling for a spot on that card. Jones, who recently resigned and is no longer competing, has shown an interest in returning to the octagon in light of these strange new conditions.
It's Jon Jones. I'll be honest, Tom's a friend. I love Tom. He's one of the coolest dudes in the whole of MMA. Even though Jones is getting old, I just can't pick against Jon Jones. I've been watching Jon Jones, as I say, since 2000.
That shift alone would be huge. Jones had retired from the sport after years of domination, leaving an unparalleled past that included many title defenses and 2 weight classes. However, nothing in MMA is ever final, including retirements. When a fan shared an AI-generated snapshot of Jones and Aspinall squaring off in front of the White House, the past champion did not ignore it. He acknowledged it. He accepted it. In 3 words, I like it. He revived a rivalry that had cooled following his retirement from active fighting. Those words did not represent an official contract signing. But in Jon Jones' universe, nothing starts with a press release. Everything starts with subtle signs, hidden messages, and moments like this.
He's like the longest running heavyweight champion in the history of the UFC, isn't he? But he's only like he hasn't fought anyone. I don't think it's going to happen, you know. I think Jon gets a lot of money for being champion. I think the sponsors are not paying him a fortune. And I think he's just dragging along, keeping the belt as long as possible because it's worth that much money to him. I mean, Jon's often struggled with tall people who are good boxers. I imagine he probably, if he did fight him, he would...
The thought of Jones facing Aspinall feels more real than ever before. For months, Jones had refused to consider the fight. Aspinall had pressed for it. Fans had asked for it, but Dana White skirted around it. But Jones was not interested. He had the leverage and the championship, and he made it clear that he would only consider the battle if it came with a big payoff. Rumors circulated that he requested at least $20 million, possibly more based on the parameters. Jones walked away when talks stagnated. Aspinall fought and won again. The UFC then did what it usually does in similar situations. It moved on without him. Aspinall was upgraded to undisputed winner, and the division advanced.
And say, no, you're not going to take this. And do you know what Jon Jones did? You have it. I don't want to fight. You can have it. This is unbelievable. The greatest of all time. What a load of shit. I'm sorry. Never going to call that him the GOAT. Ever again. Because being the greatest of all time is not just about winning. And that's what Jon Jones doesn't understand. It's about how you conduct yourself throughout the whole of your career. Are you willing to fight the biggest challenges, the biggest tests, go in there and test?
Jones did not. In Hull, there were signs that he could return. Quiet entry into the USADA testing pool, the rare social media post hinting at unfinished business, and now a public playing with the White House event. The setting may seem dramatic, even absurd, but the consequences are serious. If the UFC truly schedules a fight card at the White House, no battle might have more historical significance than Jones versus Aspinall. It would be a symbolic clash between the last great legend and the new heavyweight king. A fight that appeared to slip into the background is now set to headline the most strange and politically charged UFC show in history.
If you're a sprinter and you take PEDs, you become faster than people who are not taking PEDs and you win a race. That's okay. You're a cheat, you've won, they'll take your title off you or whatever. That's fine. If your job is to hurt another person, physically hurt another person, which could potentially redirect the rest of their life post-fighting, you're an absolute piece of shit and you should never be able to fight again if you have any PED.
Jones would not be the winner this time around. Aspinall now holds that championship, which he earned not just via his performances, but also by the UFC's decision to officially elevate him. That dynamic changes the entire narrative. Previously, the plot revolved around Aspinall's pursuit of the throne. Now Jones would be the rival.
UFC White House is crazy, dude. How's that even a thing? Is that allowed? Like, how is Donald even allowed to do that? Be kind of gangster, though. Chandler versus McGregor. Be kind of gangster. Aspinall. Jon Jones wants to fight on it. Classic. Back in the testing pool after 2 weeks. Bro is a troll and a half. He's not having his title back. That just can't be happening. All the ground trip would be sick.
That alone makes the idea more appealing. Jones has never fought from that position before. His entire career has been focused on domination, control, and psychological superiority. To return after retirement without the belt to face a dangerous younger opponent would be a major test of ego and legacy. And that is exactly why it may happen. Jones has always been fascinated to the idea of showing himself to be the best, even when the rest of the world forgets.
I'll just come out and ask you, do you think he's ducking Tom Aspinall?
No. Jon Jones, I said it a million times, I'll say it again. He's never ducked anybody other than that one goofy time with the Chael Sonnen thing. He's never ducked anybody. And, I think the reality is whatever changed his mind with this fight, I don't know, you'd have to ask him that. But, he's 38 years old and I don't know.
Do you think if it was someone like Alex Pereira, he would fight them? And it's maybe Tom that he specifically doesn't fancy them?
What complicates things even further is the possibility that Aspinall no longer wants to fight. The Brit has other choices. Cyril Gane is the most likely next challenger, but there are a slew of other candidates who would lack the drama and weight of a Jon Jones fight. Aspinall has already begun to adjust his attention, hoping to protect his new standing and create his own era at heavyweight. And if he thinks Jones just wants the fight now that the spotlight has shifted, he may choose to close that door and continue pushing forward. There's a growing feeling that Aspinall isn't interested in waiting for Jones to make up his mind, especially if the money and date are still unknown.
I would even say this, and I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I would say that Jon Jones ducked Tom Aspinall so hard that he went through self-destructive measures just to avoid a fight with this man. That's how good Tom Aspinall is. And everyone you're going to list off is going to get beat.
We'll see.
Nonetheless, the gravitas of that possible fight appeals to everyone in the MMA community. Even Daniel Cormier, one of Jones' most vocal foes and longtime rivals, has spoken up. He thinks Jones will win, not in the abstract, but right now. Cormier did not temper his opinion or explain it with excuses. He simply stated that if forced to choose, he would put his money on Jones.
But what did you make of it when you heard Jon calling out Alex of all people?
I think he does do this because, Alex Perez now he's like big star in the UFC, everybody loves him, so he know what he's doing, but I believe he should to fight against Aspinall, but I think he a little bit afraid of him, because Aspinall is someone who can really stop him and beat him.
Yeah,
but that's why I think that he believes if he can, fight against.
His logic was obvious. Despite his speed, size, and striking skill, Aspinall has never been tested in the championship rounds. Jones, on the other hand, has been living in them for 10 years. He has built a career out of outlasting other greats in 5-round fights. And Cormier sees this as the crucial factor. Experience under severe pressure in those late minutes when heart and mind are just as important as technique.
Think of the star Aspinall would have been if we just would have got that fight over with right away. Think of the star Ngannou still would have been for this company if you just would have had that fight and moved it on. And then you have an epic rivalry between those two, Aspinall and Ngannou. Like the years and years of amazing heavyweight fights could have been happening if Jon Jones just wasn't a petulant child, and if the UFC wasn't just the, oh no, it's fine, he's just finding himself, like just so annoying and so...
Cormier's comment may not change the betting odds, but it does encapsulate the internal fight inside the MMA world. Nobody really knows how good Aspinall is yet. He's looked great, but he hasn't faced somebody like Jones, who never folds, never gets scared, and changes on the fly. If that matchup is ever set, the questions will come thick and fast. Could Aspinall handle the mental warfare? Could he stop Jones' takedowns, check his kicks, and dodge the traps he so expertly sets? Could he keep up if the battle went to the 4th and 5th rounds, where the pace slows but the choices become more tough and costly? And which version of Jones would show up? That is another secret. He's been out of competition, semi-retired, and moving in and out of the public eye.
Is there a fighter in MMA or the UFC that you just find absolutely insufferable? Because for me, it's Jon Jones, and there is no close second. Jon Jones defended his heavyweight title against a retired 42-year-old Stipe Miocic back in November. Ever since then, Jon has been saying, what has Tom Aspinall done to deserve to fight me? You know, besides Tom being the interim champ and having a defense with that belt, Jon has just found every possible way to not fight.
But he is also Jonathan Jones. Even with less than 100%, he has found ways to win. He beat Cyril Gane without breaking a sweat. He's outwitted opponents with better records, bigger frames, and greater momentum. If he is truly considering a return, it is difficult to think he would do it without a complete camp and enough preparation. And if he gets those, it's tough to bet against him. This entire scenario, while still changing, represents something larger about Jones. He has never completely finished the game.
I'm going to retire Jon Jones without even fighting him. He said that nearly a year ago today. Tom Aspinall said those words. And never have words aged better in the MMA world than Tom Aspinall saying that.
Their first encounter happened months ago, before the White House event was even a thought in the minds of fans or promoters. At the Arnold Sports Festival in Birmingham, England, the two champions found themselves only inches apart, surrounded by camera flashes and shocked fans who couldn't believe what they were seeing. Jones was taking selfies with supporters when Aspinall approached him casually, seemingly taking advantage of the moment. He did not arrive with a mob or security escort. He simply came over, put his hand on Jones' shoulder, and asked, "Are we going to do this thing?"
Donald Trump just said that he wants to hold a UFC event at the White House next year for America's 250th birthday. And not just any UFC event, he wants to hold a championship UFC event at the White House next year. And this got me thinking, what a perfect time for Jon Jones.
There was no drama, posturing, or screaming. Jones looked at him and gave a cryptic answer. "I hope so." While he refused to pose for a typical face-off photo, the two stood together long enough for the moment to become real. It was the type of subtle excitement that fans could sense even through their phone screens. Aspinall was not present to question Jones with bravado. He was present to acknowledge that the time was right. The confrontation was unavoidable, and the opportunity had finally come, albeit only temporarily.
But it's the legacy. To be able to go to the heavyweight division, take out everyone, and then take out the Jon Jones legend, you know, and then go back to even beating a few of these new school guys, will literally put Tom Aspinall as the GOAT of the heavyweight division.
Jones, as always, played his part with methodical restraint. He gently brushed Aspinall's hand from his shoulder, as if to say, "Not yet." The gesture contained no malice, but it did send a clear message. Jones was not going to hurry into anything. That had been the tone throughout their entire story up to that moment. Aspinall won the interim title with a stunning knockout of Sergey Pavlovich and instantly began campaigning for the championship.
Since the fight will never happen, gun to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. Tom has never been pushed into those championship rounds. That first time you feel that, I gotta get up off that stool after the 3rd round. You needed to fight Tom now when he doesn't have that experience, especially as Jon Jones.
He wanted Jones. He was not subtle about it. For months, he claimed Jones was avoiding the fight, but Jones had all the cards. He was still seeking for a fight with Stipe Miocic, saying he wanted to prioritize the legacy matchup before everything else. That matchup never happened. Mysik's recovery from a torn pectoral muscle has stopped. Aspinall finally fell silent on the callouts. Perhaps he became bored of the never-ending wait. Perhaps he knew the UFC would not put pressure on Jones to unite the belts. However, when the chance to meet him in person at the Arnold Festival presented itself, Aspinall jumped at it. That little time served as the story's new basis. He stated clearly that he still wanted to fight.
Why is that fight not happening? Well, it could be for two reasons. It's either that Jon Jones is using a strategy to have more money. You could say it, JSP. Go for it. Say what you want to say. But I think that's why he's doing it. You know, if he's doing it just to hold the title, to serve the wave, this is not. And if he has no intention of coming back, that's not right. You know. But if he does it for as a strategy to have more money, I can understand why. But I think that the UFC needs to do something.
Nonetheless, in the months following their original meeting, Aspinall gave up waiting. He moved ahead. He was busy. He took a fight with Curtis Blades, the man who had previously defeated him due to a bizarre knee injury. That added another depth to his campaign. Not only would he beat the man who had previously beaten him, but he would do so while still holding the temporary title. Blades has just won a convincing knockout over Jailton Almeida, and the fight with Aspinall was nearly over. Then came the surprise twist. Jon Jones has announced his retirement. With no unification bout, the heavyweight division has a new undisputed king. The age of waiting for Jones was finally over.
Think of the star Aspinall would have been if we just would have got that fight over with right away. Think of the star Ngannou still would have been for this company if you just would have had that fight and moved it on. And then you have an epic rivalry between those two, Aspinall and Ngannou. Like the years and years of amazing heavyweight fights could have been happening if Jon Jones just wasn't a petulant child, and if the UFC wasn't just the, oh no, it's fine, he's just finding himself. Like, just so annoying and so...
It was an odd type of closure. Aspinall had not beaten Jones to earn the belt, but he had outlasted him. He'd stayed prepared, loud, and determined to fight anyone while the undisputed champion sat on the sidelines. When the belt was removed, Aspinall took over the throne. The heavyweight division finally had a winner after 19 months. That winner was British, quiet, humble, and built like a tank. He had proven that he was no fluke, and he made it clear that he was not going to continue waiting on anybody else's timeline.
What do you make of Tom Aspinall and all the things that he's been saying about it?
I think he should go on and have a wonderful career.
Do you think that he needs you?
No, I think he needs me. When you want something bad enough, and if you get it, it could be the worst thing that could ever happen to you. I love being the ultimate troll. He's not in a position to like excite me, because if I whoop his ass, it's going to be the next guy. There's going to be a whole new fan base of somebody who everybody believes in.
As the Jones fight looked to be off the table, attention switched to the next contender. Cyril Gane, formerly the interim champion, appeared as the most likely candidate. Gane and Aspinall had never fought, therefore there remained unfinished business. Years ago, Aspinall continued that fight. He badly wanted it, but Gane refused. The fight did not take place, either due to schedule or strategy, and Aspinall had not forgotten it. During a podcast appearance, he made it clear that he felt Gane had ducked him, not in a harsh, trash-talking manner, but in such a way that it was clear he was keeping track of who stood up and who did not.
Thing or not wanting to fight, you think, or do you think it's a combination?
Well, I can tell you some stuff about the money situation, but I'm not sure I can say it on camera, so I will tell you that after. I think I'm a bad matchup for him, to be honest. And I think he knows it.
My opinion, I think it's a huge risk.
Yeah.
It's a huge risk. You're younger, you're athletic, you hit hard, you pose problems. We don't have much data on you.
He even stated Gane earned a beating, and the time couldn't be better. Gane has regained his form, and he remains one of the most elusive and highly advanced heavyweights on the team. That fight would be a striking masterclass, which the UFC would have no problem promoting. Aspinall accepted it. He also stated that there were others in the division, including Jailton Almeida and Alexander Volkov. He had already defeated Volkov, but he acknowledged the Russian's recent success and looked open to a rematch. However, the gaming dispute was personal. It was not about ranks. It was about unfinished business.
I'll just come out and ask you, do you think he's ducking Tom Aspinall?
No. Jon Jones, I said it a million times, I'll say it again. He's never ducked anybody other than that one goofy time with the Chael Sonnen thing. He's never ducked anybody. And, I think the reality is whatever changed his mind with this fight, I don't know. You'd have to ask him that. But, he's 38 years old and I don't know.
Do you think if it was someone like Alex Pereira, he would fight them? And it's maybe Tom that he specifically doesn't fancy?
Aspinall's rise from up-and-coming prodigy to interim winner to indisputable king has been far from typical. He's suffered injuries, experienced delays, and is dealing with the most frustrating championship problem in recent memory. But now that the belt is his, he isn't spending time. He's prepared to clear out the division. The White House event may be the highlight of 2025, but Aspinall is focused on preserving his standing against those who have been involved. That's what makes his potential confrontation with Gaines so intriguing. This is not a forced meeting. It's a long-awaited collision that simply makes sense, and it fits right into Aspinall's present thinking. No more waiting, no more politics. Just real fights between true contenders.
Gonna retire Jon Jones without even fighting him. He said that nearly a year ago today. Tom Aspinall said those words. And never have words aged better in the MMA world than Tom Aspinall saying that about.
The irony is that Jones may re-enter the debate. His departure did not end with a full stop. It came with caveats. The time, the money, the venue, and now that the White House event has become a reality, the pieces are falling into place for another run. But the power dynamic has changed. Before, Aspinall was hunting Jones. Now Jones must earn that shot back. That change is not merely symbolic, it is massive. For a decade, Jones was the man with the keys. Now he's on the outside, looking in. And Aspinall, whether he fights him or not, has already proven that he can lead the division ahead. So what do you think? Please share your views below and subscribe for future updates.